So now it's time to do some exercises. Now for this first exercise, we'll make shapes in shapes in shapes. And I would like to use the sketcher brush for this from the Perfect Start brush pack. And now let's just make some shapes. For instance, a wobble like this. And you could make a triangle. And maybe a square. You can fill your page with different shapes. And then once you have a lot of shapes, try making the same shape inside of the shape you have created. And then continue making another one. And another one. Until you can't make a shape anymore. So this is an exercise for which you don't have to think a lot, but you are working on your hand control. Trying to keep an equal space in between the lines and make this smaller and smaller. And it doesn't matter what type of shapes you make. And don't worry about the end result, because every minute you are practicing this, you are working on that hand control. And you can fill your entire page with all of these shapes. You can fill in gaps in between the shapes. And perhaps you'll even end up with an awesome looking abstract artwork. Now for this one, we'll make these oval shapes. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And you can also try experimenting, working from your wrist or your fingers or your elbow. But this is a great little exercise to do as a warm-up. Next, we'll do another exercise. And this time we'll trace our own shapes and try to make a complicated random shape. You can have straight lines and rounded lines, whatever. You can add multiple shapes here. Just do whatever. And then once you have created a shape, go to your layer menu, tap the N, lower the opacity to, let's say, 33%, and then make a new layer on top. And then go ahead and trace your shapes. And you can use any brush you like. You can use one of the liner brushes or the inking brushes. Let's try the tapered ink brush. And now try tracing the lines that you have just created. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just an exercise to improve your hand control. And as you continue doing these exercises, it'll get easier and easier to follow the lines that you have created. The next exercise is all about pressure control. Because of course you can try and control the direction your hand is moving in, but we also need to learn how to control how much pressure we apply on our pen. And an exercise to work on that is this pressure control exercise. We are going to try to vary our pressure as we make a line. You can make horizontal lines or vertical or diagonal. We are going to vary the pressure like this. We are moving. We are using the tapered ink brush. And now that we have created this line, we are going to make a line that is the opposite of this. So we are going to fill those gaps Here we are going to use less pressure, more pressure, less pressure, more pressure, less, more, less, more, less, and try to get these lines close together. And it'll take a little bit of practice. You can see that it's hard for me too. Try to get close to those areas. And as you move on, you will see that it gets easier to control that pressure. And like this, you can fill an entire page. And like I said, you can do the same thing like vertically. Press hard, light, hard, light, hard, light, hard. And then go back down and do the opposite thing. And perhaps you'll find that this is easier than doing it diagonally, or perhaps you'll find it more challenging. And you can do the same thing horizontally. And don't expect miracles right away. Just like the other exercises, you can use this as a warm-up. And you'll notice that as you do these exercises more often, you will get more control over that pressure. Now with this course comes a workbook. And this workbook is full of tracing exercises. And let me show you how you can use that workbook. When you open the workbook in Procreate and go to the layers, you'll see multiple exercises. And you can pick whatever exercise you want, whatever image you would like to trace. And when you open up your exercise, you will see the exercise page, which is locked. You can't draw there. And you'll see the draw here layer. And that's where you need to draw. Now we have 3 categories of tracing images. We have the ones with the straight lines, like this one over here. It has all straight lines. So it's a great way to start. This one has straight lines as well. Then we have the curved lines, tracing images. And then we have the images for which you also need to vary the pressure you use. So these images have tapered lines. So let's try this one, for example. You can use the tapered ink brush for this one, or the tapered ink rough. And on this draw here layer, you can start tracing the image. Use more pressure where the lines should be thick. In this case, I have the size set to 18%. And try to not use the quick shape tool in Procreate, because of course if you make a circle and you hold your pen in place, it'll snap to a perfectly round circle. Try to avoid that. We are doing an exercise here. And it's not easy. It'll take practice. I'm not making perfectly smooth lines either. So don't worry. So just go over all of the lines. Just until you have covered all of the lines. And then once you have all the lines, of course, you can continue the fun and color your artwork. Once you have done all the exercises in the handbook, no worries. You can also just grab coloring pages from the internet, import them into Procreate and trace those. And with every image that you trace, you will be improving your hand control. But hand control is not the only thing you need, so let's move on to the next lesson.